We've all said it, right? I'll start when I'm ready, or I'm just waiting for the right time. But here's the thing. What if that perfect time you're waiting for literally doesn't exist?
It comes down to a classic psychological phenomenon called temporal discounting. Basically, our brains are hardwired to overvalue present comfort and massively undervalue the future. So starting tomorrow feels amazing, doesn't it? Because tomorrow has zero immediate cost. But starting today, that requires effort right now. So our brains artificially devalue the cost of putting things off just to protect our immediate comfort.
Which leads us directly to the fresh start effect. Research out of places like Wharton shows we are highly motivated to start new things on temporal landmarks. You know, a Monday, the first of the month, New Year's Day. And sure, that can be a helpful kickstart. But this very quickly becomes an illusion. When we constantly use these landmarks as an excuse to delay, that fresh start just turns into a trap of endless waiting. And this is exactly where we hit what behavioral economists call the intention-behavior gap. Just having a really strong intention does not automatically translate into taking action. In fact, the bigger and more important your goal is, the more massive the psychological barrier becomes right before you take that very first step. So I've got to ask you this directly. Why do we constantly believe the future will somehow give us a braver version of ourselves? Think about that for a second. We always tell ourselves, next week I'll be less scared, or next month I'll be more outgoing. But honestly, this illusion of time is just a cover for the surprising reality of why we actually delay. Because the core truth is, waiting has very little to do with time. It's actually a brilliant subconscious strategy to protect our identity. Think about it. If you haven't started yet, there's absolutely no possibility that you failed. Waiting lets us quietly hold on to the comforting belief that we are perfectly capable. We just haven't tried yet. And that brings us to a pretty shocking realization from the data. You aren't preparing. You're just extending your safety. Sitting around waiting for a burst of motivation or that perfect moment feels rational, like you're getting ready. But when psychologists evaluate chronic delayers, they consistently find that waiting is really just a rationalized form of self-handicapping. It's a way to avoid testing our actual limits. This ties perfectly into a massive misconception around perfectionism. We love to think perfectionism is just about having incredibly high standards. I mean, it sounds great on a resume, right? But the research shows something else. A lot of the time, perfectionism is simply a shield. It's driven by a deep fear of making mistakes in front of others, rather than some genuine pursuit of excellence. So here is the ultimate paradox we all fall for. The myth is that you need confidence before you can take action. But the reality, which is backed up by extensive behavioral research, proves the exact opposite. Confidence develops after you act. You absolutely do not need to feel ready to act. Acting is exactly what makes you feel ready. Think about it like this. You can't learn to swim by standing on the edge of the pool, just waiting until you are magically no longer afraid of the water. Readiness is not some fixed condition that's eventually going to arrive in the mail. Taking small, concrete actions is literally the only way to reduce uncertainty. And here's a fascinating fact directly from the research that you really should take away from this explainer. The people taking leaps, launching projects, and making huge life changes, they are just as unready as anyone else. Studies on regret by psychologists like Thomas Galovich show that most major life decisions happen solely because someone just decided to start, even though they felt completely unprepared. So, the crucial point here is this. We wait because the future hasn't disappointed us yet. Tomorrow is perfect. It's a pristine, safe space, completely devoid of failure, rejection, or mistakes. The reason we cling to waiting isn't because tomorrow is actually a better time for our goals, it's because tomorrow hasn't broken our hearts yet. Which leaves us with this powerful final thought. Stop looking for the perfect moment to grant you bravery. Perfect moments don't give you courage. Courage is what happens when you decide to take an ordinary, imperfect moment, step forward anyway, and turn it into a turning point in your life. Don't let your most expensive decision be the one you never make. Thanks for diving into this explainer with me, and I challenge you to make that imperfect start today.